time. He's Tom Verducci, the senior baseball writer at Sports Illustrated, joins us from Arizona. And, Tom, let me start with the Cubs fans' morale. Is it too high, considering Vegas says they're the odds-on favorite?
No, it's not. In fact, after spending a few days in their camp, I call their camp Cub Med because everybody's happy. I know it's spring training and everybody's optimistic, but they're reaching new heights of optimism there. And good reason, Dan. I think on paper, it's the best team in baseball. Now, we all know the playoffs. Who can predict that? But it's hard for me to imagine even a worst-case scenario where that team is not at least in the playoffs. So, yeah, enjoy yourselves. You got a really good team.
Yeah, but Cub fans don't know how to react to this. That this is almost like we don't want to know we're really good.
No, I know, and that's the feeling of Cubs fans have been Cubs fans for a long time. If you just got on board the last 2 years, or if you're Joe Madden and you just got on board the last 2 years, none of that matters, man. They just know they have a really good young team. And I remember before the Red Sox won, I remember guys like Schilling and Veritek talking about when you put on a Red Sox uniform, you did put on all the history and the baggage. And they really had to fight through that and took years to do that. I don't get the sense that this group of Cub players, and especially Madden, care that Cubs fans think that failure is right around the next corner. It's just a different vibe there now.
I wanted to have you on about the baseball new off-the-field violence policy here because all eyes have been on the NFL, and rightfully so. And now it's Major League Baseball's turn. So what do you expect the new commissioner, Rob Manfred, to do? How important is this policy that he's going to put into play?
Well, it's huge because he's setting a precedent, obviously, and the ruling on Jose Reyes to basically keep him off the field, even in spring training. I think he knew he was doing this all along. He's essentially kicking the can down the curb a little bit here until he actually has to impose discipline. In other words, this is not really discipline. This is, we don't want this guy in uniform representing the Rockies and MLB while he is facing charges. And I noticed when the union, the Players Association, put out their statement, they obviously said they're keeping a close eye on this, and they will jump in if it's not resolved, quote unquote, in a timely fashion. So if you have a legal case where it's delayed and it gets dragged out, and this guy is still waiting to find out what his status is in baseball, I'm sure the union will drop in. I think it goes to trial April 4th. If it's a quick trial, obviously, then after that, I would suspect that the commissioner will then impose discipline in terms of games where it's an unpaid suspension. Right now he's being paid. But no, it's big because the players and the commissioner's office got together with this policy last year. Of course, that's the environment we're in sports today. They didn't want to be caught short without a policy. They've got one. But now we want to find out, or certainly Reyes, Chapman, Puig want to find out what are the disciplines.
How much power does the commissioner have?
He's got big latitude. It's under the just cause provision in the CBA, where he basically can't come up with a number and or fine, again, subject to appeal. Now, there's some thought here that when he imposes the first one especially, it could be extra hard, knowing that the union is going to file a grievance, and possibly maybe it gets knocked down in terms of games or dollars. But he needs to go on record to establish a precedent that we are not taking things lightly.
Also, do you want to be in this business? The NFL, I didn't know if they were going to outsource this because you have other things to be concerned about. How much should an arrest matter in this? That there are guys who haven't been charged by the legal process, but it's going to be affected by just being a baseball player and the commissioner's policy here.
I think we're already seeing that just the arrest itself does matter more. Aroldis Chapman still on the field with the Yankees in spring training. There was no arrest filed, wasn't charged with anything. Reyes obviously being charged, and also physical evidence. The medics at the scene responded to injuries to his wife. She was brought to the hospital. So there's some physical corroboration that something happened there. So I think tangibly he's working with a lot more, especially the arrest, than he does with Chapman. And I think already we're seeing that does make a difference. But again, whether Reyes is let off or not, whether he's not guilty or guilty, the commissioner can still impose a penalty. And that, to me, is going to be the tricky area. And that becomes less definitive about how much punishment that you should dish out.
The Aroldis Chapman shooting his gun in his garage. People have tried to liken that to shooting bottles out in your backyard. Does that wash with the commissioner?
That we'll see. I don't think it's exactly the same. I understand you're on private property. There's actually nothing illegal about it. But from what I've read from the police report, I think at least one of the bullets did discharge and leave the garage itself. What happens if you can't control where it's going? You're not shooting at a target in a controlled environment. It was completely uncontrolled. What happens if one of those bullets escapes the garage and hits somebody? A whole different scenario. So I understand it's not illegal. He has the right to do that on his own property. But again, the commissioner has to think about, well, do I just let this go and just say that behavior is okay? Is that the signal I want to send to other players? I'm not expecting he's going to get a huge suspension. I do think there's going to be a suspension, but certainly not in the case that Reyes is looking at.
Tom, thanks. I know got a long day and long season here, and we'll be checking in with you periodically. Thank you for joining us on short notice.
Yeah, I was hoping for the New York Yankees spring training program where you get to sleep in late.
Oh, and I like that. That Joe Girardi said he doesn't want his guys showing up too early for workout. Is that true?
That is true.
Man.
He wants them to get sleep, but I just remember what Greg Maddux said about playing golf all the time between starts. He said that got guys in bed early because you knew you had to get up early. Now, if you know you're going to be up late, doesn't that mean you're going to be out late?
How concerned are they about CC Sabathia coming out of alcohol rehab?
I mean, concern personally is the biggest thing. They like all the signs. The biggest thing is, he went to a knee brace in the second half of last season, and it really helped him. So I think physically they feel pretty good about him, but, the days of him being a 200-inning guy, pitch at the front of the rotation, those are over. They're not kidding themselves.
Great to catch up with you, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
All right, Dan.
That's Tom Verducci, senior baseball writer.